The correction nobody is talking about. Prepare to have your mind blown at what I'm about to share with you in this video. I'm That Agent Kelly. I post every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. I primarily talk about my local market of Abbotsford, British Columbia, and Canadian real estate as a whole. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. And if you'd like to chat, you can scroll down into the description, click on my link there for my calendar. You can book yourself right in my calendar at a time that works best for you. So as I'm sure you guys know, everybody's talking about how the real estate market has another 30-40% to go, how the stock market's gonna crash, how Bitcoin is going to $5,000, how the economy's done, so on and so forth. But what I don't agree with is everyone tries to black and white the economy or the real estate market or the stock market, and they say everything is gonna crash or everything's gonna rebound by 2024 with no in between. And I'm sure if you went and talked to like a mathematician about this, they would probably tell you that there is literally 1 trillion different possibilities for what could possibly happen here. So there are actually 2 types of corrections, and the one that everybody knows is obviously a price correction. But the other correction that nobody ever talks about, or at least I don't ever hear anybody talking about, is a time correction. So here's the common thought process and where I think the word correction comes from. When a market or asset or whatever it may be far exceeds its normal rate of growth, the common thought process is that it has to correct back down to its normal rate of growth or normal average rate of growth or the mean. So the common thought process right now is that with how overheated real estate has become or the stock market or whatever it is, it has to correct back down to its mean rate of growth, i.e. there needs to be a price correction. So I'm going to give you guys an example of a time correction. Let's say the stock market grows 10% year over year annually, and that's the mean rate of growth or the average rate of growth or whatever you want to call it. I don't even know if I'm using the right terminology, but I'll explain this concept, all right? So the stock market does this every year, right? 10%, okay? In 1 year, it goes up 50%. Well, the natural thought process in everyone's mind, in every investor's mind, or whatever it may be, is that the stock market is now roughly 40% overvalued. And I'm just talking like very bare bones. There's so many different variables here, but this is very bare bones. If the stock market is supposed to grow 10% per year annually on average, and it grows 50% in 1 year, the price needs to correct 40% to come back down to that average rate of growth. This completely makes sense. However, something I never hear people ever talking about is that if the stock market went up 50% in 1 year, and then, I don't know, came down 20%, it would technically be 20% overvalued because it's supposed to go up 10%, right? So that's 50 minus 10, and now it came down 20, so that's 40 minus 20. We're 20% overvalued, right? So most people would think, well, there's another 20% to go until we're back down to the mean, we're back down to normality. Well, what if the stock market just traded sideways for 2 years? So instead of getting that 10% rate of growth for the next 2 years, if it grew 0%, that would technically be the same as the market coming down another 20% in 1 year. For a correction to occur, the market doesn't necessarily have to go down. It just has to not go up. And by the way, when we talk about trillions of variables and blah, 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 the correction doesn't even have to happen, right? We can talk about all of these things in play, but there are so many variables. It's like, yes, interest rates are high. Yes, this is happening. Yes, layoffs are coming, all this stuff, but that doesn't mean that the price has to come down or that it has to trade sideways or that it has to do anything. And another thing people don't talk about very much either is that if inflation is at 3% and the real estate market or stocks or whatever it is does nothing and trades sideways for a couple of years, you're actually losing 3% year over year on that asset. So even if there was no mean rate of growth or anything like that, if it traded sideways, it would essentially be becoming 3% worth less every single year anyways. So let's relate this to real estate because I'm a real estate guy, right? That's why you're following this channel. And by the way, please subscribe if you're enjoying this video currently and you want to see more content just like this, and you can help me out by dropping a like as well. So real estate got super overheated, prices went up like crazy, and interest rates skyrocketed, but prices haven't come down to a point where the monthly payments have matched what they used to be before. So now the natural thought process is, well, prices have to come down further and further and further to somewhat be similar to what mortgage payments used to be before they started hiking rates. And they'll say things like, it has to come down to match the affordability of Canadians and wages and stuff like that. It doesn't make sense mathematically. And you know, if it were as simple as that, I would probably be a very rich man. But that's a topic for a whole different video. So something people aren't thinking about, or I guess considering, is the time aspect of this correction. So Greater Vancouver real estate appreciates historically at a rate of 7 to 9%. So let's just say 8% for this video. From January 2020 to March 2022, we increased $917,000 to $1.263 million on the home price index, for a total increase of 28% over 2.25 years on aggregate pricing. Now there are certain condos or whatever product types in certain areas that appreciated more than this, but on aggregate pricing, 28% over 2.25 years, which is the equivalent to an average annual growth rate of 12.4% over that time period, making us essentially 8% overvalued. We grew an extra 8% more than we should have normally during that time period. Keep in mind, this is after prices have already come down substantially. If I were to do the beginning of 2020 to the peak, this would look a lot different, but I'm doing 2020 till right now. Now, there are a lot more factors in play. I'm just simplifying this concept for you guys so it's easier to understand. But this would essentially mean that if Vancouver real estate stayed flat for 1 year, we would be at our mean growth rate. Now, people will argue that interest rates are much, much higher than they were in 2020. Therefore, we should actually be dipping far below that mean growth rate. And I would agree, I would. However, again, not that simple, because there are things like inventory in play, immigration, so on and so forth, right? So that doesn't necessarily have to happen. Another thing that people aren't thinking about is, yes, interest rates have gone up. Yes, real estate is much more unaffordable. Yes, all things point to real estate needs to go down 30% or whatever the metric is that people are coming up with. However, if real estate were to stay flat for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I mean, Japan's real estate's been flat for 40 years or whatever it is, but let's just say it stayed flat for 5 years. Well, if wage growth is at 2.5%, which is typically what it's been at for the last 20 years or whatever, and they do manage to get inflation down to 2%, and all of these things happen, and real estate stays flat, well, wages are going up against the value of real estate, meaning real estate is getting more affordable even if it stays flat. Now, you could argue that other costs for goods and services have gone up, meaning that, you know, that cancels out your wage increase or whatever it may be. And yes, it cancels out some of it, but all that matters is that wages have gone up against the value of real estate. Thus, it's technically more affordable. So the point of this video isn't to provide you with a bullish thesis for why real estate's going to go up. I actually believe it's going to go down in the short term. The point of this video is to provide you guys another thought process, another outcome for what could possibly happen. It's not as easy as market go down, market go up. There are trillions of variables at play, and these are things that you need to think of when it comes to making your investment decision. The fact that we're already down 30% and there's a possibility for the market to trade sideways and all of these other things would definitely affect my investment decisions going forward. So anyways, guys, that's this video. If you hadn't heard about a time correction, make sure you subscribe to this channel and drop me a like. Again, if you want to chat, just book that call. You can scroll down, click on that link, and book yourself right into my calendar. And we'll see you on the next one, guys. Peace.